We are live, all the way live. Look at the pretty trees.
I never didn't believe in Bigfoot. I never believed in it, I didn't believe in it. I never gave it any thought.
They kept wood knocking back and forth to each other, and it was in a pattern.
Barn owls don't typically throw rocks.
I come across these tracks.
Sasquatch is still not on my mind.
Well, welcome to the show, Woz. I'm glad we're finally up and running. All the way from
Hello.
Las Vegas.
Good to be here, Bobby. Thanks for having me.
Cool. You know, when I was doing your bio for this, I was like, I really want to talk to you about, the engineering part of it, the technological part, and your wife as well. But since she's sick and you're here, we're going to go really deep into nuts and bolts. It's going to be a very technical, it's going to be very boring. Hope everybody's got their popcorn. No, but that's the, so you do the engineering and the technological side of the paranormal. You build the devices and you build them. What's your specialty? Is it like the REM pod or is it like the voice box?
Well, I love REM pods.
Mm-hmm.
What I wanted to do when I set my mind to this was just know how each thing worked that people were already using. And we went, Janine and I, through like all the Zach Bagans, kind of backwards, not as much the old ones, but like newer back, and all the even more so Ghost Hunters and all the other little one-off ones, and just went into YouTube, Sam and Colby, and just kind of took a survey for a good year or so of what people were using, and I started getting first cheaper versions and then nicer versions of some things that were already out there. I got a REM pod. That's an interesting one because I found out that as much as those things cost, the circuit inside is just a theremin kit. It's a little 2-chip kit that you get for 20 or 30 bucks and solder together. And the default mode is like the default mode. Now, the people that made the original REM pod added a temperature sensor, and I think that they took it a step further later, but the OG was with that. And you can still get those kits, and I've gotten...
so you mean theremin like Star Trek?
That's right, exactly. The instrument that you wave your
gosh.
hand by a piece of metal. And
that's how they made the Star Trek theme song.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the circuit here. What I did is just throw it in a box that used to have other stuff in it.
So it's like a Raspberry Pi.
A lot dumber, but I like that comparison. Are you familiar with Arduinos?
No.
It's
probably should be
another thing in the Raspberry Pi family, but you can't put an operating system on it. You just put code on it and it just runs it like about as smart as like a smart thermostat or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And this has a chip kind of like that in it.
I didn't know I was that interested in that kind of stuff. I was signed up for a paranormal convention last year, and I can't think of the main company that does them. They're the red ones, and everybody knows they have the REM pods and the Orthodox box. Is that what I'm thinking of? And the teddy bear. They sell those for hundreds of dollars, and I was going to get one and auction them off. And I got looking at them then that they were like $300, $400. I'm like, dang, I can just market myself for that much.
Yeah, there's a lot of
it's a lot
padding there.
But I went on an investigation up here at one of the popular ones here, and everybody had those kind of things. Like it was basically a trade show for all the stuff they had on the internet. that investigation I went on. So I was like, man, how do these things work? Like the K2s and the REM pods, and even the cat balls. I've got a garage full of cat balls. I don't even have any
started
cats.
bringing a bag of cat balls. The
Mhm.
K2 is an EMF meter, so in that one you're picking up electromagnetic fields. But what I love about the REM pod is the fact that you're picking up something interfering with a field that it's already making.
Mhm.
And people always explain the REM pod all these different ways to make it sound really exotic. And it does have to do with capacitance, and capacitance
Yeah.
just as a thing is exotic. But it's really a lot like the touchpad on your computer or a touch screen. Just two antennas. In this case, with the REM pod, there's the one antenna that you see, and then there's the ground inside the device that you don't see. And electrons you don't see are just flowing from that antenna to inside, and you're just disturbing it. You're getting in the way, or actually the conductiveness of your hand is helping a little bit. And that's what I'm picking up in something experimental that we're working on. This guy is actually 2 REM pods. Oh, that's so funny because it's a green circuit board. It's looking all purple, green screen in it.
I was wondering what
Didn't
that
think of
was.
that. So this guy is an experimental board that we have different shaped metal pads on to act as 2 antennas, one for yes and one for no. And the idea is that we have a yes REM pod and a no REM pod, and the same device comparing the two, the same brain. And that brain is one that we're just barely starting to bring to market, but it's a little brain that is an Arduino, a lot like a Raspberry Pi, has a little screen, and we wrote our own firmware for it where it can use this little hat to detect temperature changes like drops in temperature, humidity, or barometric pressure. And it also has a little accelerometer. So, when you move your phone, it can detect it, but phones weigh a lot. This thing doesn't weigh anything. So the tiniest little touch, I can't even hold it steady enough. And it'll tell you which axis bumped it. So we've just started doing some investigations
X and
with
Y.
this. We have some investigations on YouTube. We've started using it with a few of them where we've scattered them around, and then they'll Bluetooth to my computer. So I can see on the Bluetooth logs, oh, hey, something just bumped the one in the hallway, or something popped up above the fireplace or something like that. They can all report back as we stash them around the room. But that's what this guy is going to plug into when we have the final design for it. You can see we're still testing which pads kind of separate better. There's a reason why there's not a dual REM pod on the market right now, and they interfere with each other. If you put 2 REM pods next to each other, they fight, and one wants to piggyback the signal of the other. And so I've been solving it with code, which has been messy, but we've got it working. Now it's just dialing it in, working better.
If they can do it with those big microphones in the ceiling, they can do it. You can do it with that, surely.
Yeah, and with the shared audio video background with me, that like interference it's a harsh mistress.
The echo cancellation thinks it's doing something good, and it's really just screwing you over.
Yeah, you run into exact same things with that, kind of like a metaphor for that is going on with the way they crosstalk.
So eventually you can set those things up on the wall and get like the actual shape of the thing moving through.
That's a really cool vision. That's something I want to get machine learning involved in, because we know machine learning works well with things like the SLS camera, which, just aside, that's actually an Xbox 360 or Xbox One camera. What they do is the Kinect. If anyone's familiar with the Xbox Kinect, it was this camera thing you'd put on your TV and dance in front of it, and it would detect your joints by where it saw your body moving and use that for game input. But that's found a role in paranormal with lots of people, because it will find an entity there. Sometimes it'll wave at you, sometimes it'll respond to commands. It's unbelievable what you can pick up with an SLS camera. And so that's an example of machine learning, what's being labeled as AI now, as many things as AI is meant, being
I didn't know
used.
those were connects, by the way. I knew what they
Yeah.
were. I didn't know they were.
So you can have your own
It makes
XLS
sense.
camera.
You
The
know, the
only trick
funniest,
is they need
so
a
the
really
funniest,
powerful computer. So
yeah,
you have to have like a gamer laptop on your back or something to really get a high
you have to
frame
run
rate.
around like, what was that that newest Ghostbusters movie with the kid named Podcast with this whole thing set up on his back?
Oh no.
Yeah, he just ran around with the whole mixer on his back. There's a lady here in Tennessee that did a SLS investigation, and the ghost was pleasuring itself on the couch.
Oh, great.
It was doing the telltale motions.
Yeah.
And
I
I'm like,
believe it.
I mean, that's not a lamp doing that. I'll tell you that.
Our creepiest was probably this old dentist chair that was this chair had dentistry done on it before anesthesia, and someone kept popping up sitting in it. There was also this hotel owned by the mob in California, the Aztec Hotel, and upstairs there was a couch in this room that people kept reporting things happening. And lo and behold, someone kept popping up sitting in the couch in the same spot. We even came back later that night, looked at the couch from a different angle. Because I mean, it's one thing if there's like shadows shaped like a person or something that would fool human eyes into, oh, there's a person shaped thing there. And that can trigger it sometimes too. But when there's just straight nothing there, as much as these things have a reputation for being buggy, they've been on the market for over a decade. And Microsoft finds them accurate enough to keep making new versions of them. And they're now kind of used more scientifically and less in gaming. There's an updated version that's actually just for the like not the public, for like scientific research kind of stuff. So that's an interesting coincidence. So there's people doing machine learning.
I didn't know they still sold them. I thought they went out.
They stopped selling them to the public, and they made a new miniature version that people in the public can buy it. I keep accidentally signaling stuff.
That was like, what is that?
But it's not marketed to the public because there's no games for it. It's marketed for people doing robotics and stuff. So
that scared me the first time that happened. I'm like, what is that? It keeps showing. Oh, I was looking at YouTube. But what if it's not on YouTube and everybody thinking we're just insane? Like, what are they talking about? It's showing up.
Yeah, we're talking about hearts and stuff popping up.
We're just over here we're like small children. Ryan's. We're gonna just unbox toys here in a minute. You need us.
I love what you said about finding like an image with the radio frequency kind of data or capacitance data, because there's actually these researchers that have taken a Wi-Fi network and used machine learning to visualize the people behind a wall based on what they do to interfere with the Wi-Fi network. And especially when you get into 5G and smaller frequencies, people interrupt them more. So I touched on this like a little bit in that same video where we have the dentist chair. I was messing with this really simple piece of test equipment that would put like 2.4 gigahertz, like a little bit older Wi-Fi between two antennas, and then the waveform would move if something moved between them. But it also picked up our movements too, which wasn't the best. But taking that and getting that machine learning view on it, comparing with an actual camera, okay, this is what you see frequency-wise when a person is here. Now we put it in a place with no people. Do you see that same pattern again? And that's where that would end up going. And I love that.
Exactly what you mean too.
Kind of provable thing. Like, this is something that you can take the same devices and test it yourself scientifically. People can do that with this too. The code is open source, so you can't wonder if there's like random number generators in my code in it or anything like that. You can actually go on our website and look at my code for it.
Yeah, open source. Okay.
It's out there's one more AI machine learning thing that everyone can do for free right now that no one's messing with. And that's using any one of these tools that generates captions. You can use that in silent stuff, or take a silent part where you think there might be an EVP and just boost the volume and see if the AI caption generator detects any words in there.
Like CapCut.
Yeah, there's one that's one. I'm using Captionator for Final Cut, but there's a ton of them. And boosting the volume a lot. You can use a limiter or a compressor to boost it without clipping, and then feed it to it. We've found one actual audible EVP. We often don't have the patience to go through hours of footage for EVPs.
Yeah, that's got to be taxing. I don't know how they stand it. I'm like, that's just, I would die.
To have this thing find one for us that we could actually play and hear, that was amazing.
See, that's next level. That's thinking outside the box. Because nobody wants to do the new things with any of this investigations. They want to do the same thing. Well, Bigfoot's not real because I can't get him on my phone. Well, that's not. Maybe you're not trying hard enough. And I've seen a Wi-Fi heat map in action, and I can imagine that if you had some kind of AI that checked it over and over, you could almost see something moving real time. It's like a reverse thermal imager, almost like a reverse FLIR.
Totally. I love that idea of that. Again, it's something you're imaging, something you normally can't see. This time it'd be radio signals instead of heat. But that idea is really valuable, I think.
Especially something like a entity, I'll call it that without saying spirit, but that to exist soaks up the energy around it. And so it would definitely soak up a Wi-Fi signal. It would love that. Like a Dementors. So, and I was having to explain it. My cousin sent me her internet was sucking. I'm like, well, show me, do a speed test from these two places in your house. I'm like, why would it be different here? I'm like, it's between 3 walls, bro. Wi-Fi can't get through. Wi-Fi can't get through sheetrock. It dimensions it like 30% every time it goes through one or more.
And the faster, the newer the Wi-Fi, the worse it is at going further too. People forget about that. Like it's actually switching to an older Wi-Fi when you go further away.
It's hot up close, but not further away.
We're coming with the hot tips in this episode. I'm
glad I'm not a cable man because I don't care. Like I know how it works. I don't want to explain it. Like, it just does, man. It's going to be the most male heavy watched episode I've had so far.
Well, hey, it seems that way, the way, we get into our trucks and stuff, but getting into the gear has become something that's for everybody now. You don't have to have a technical background to pick up an EVP meter on Amazon.
Or a ton of money either.
No.
It's hobbyable.
Very hobbyable.
That's a word. We just made a new word up. Hobbyable. Yeah, it's not much, like $200, and you got all kinds of stuff. For $50, you can have a K2.
Oh, if you're going to spend $50 instead of getting a K2 that's just the 5 lights, I mean, it's good that it's something that's as universal as it is, but there's ones that'll give you an actual number and measure milligauss as well as measuring the hold on. I'm just not going to do firing up one. I want to show you guys.
green, red. That's your.
Yeah. So that'll pick up EF, but not EMF, so to speak. So you get you could compare it to like static electricity fields, but you don't get the magnetic fields. And I've been noticing a trend in people that have the tri-field meter, which does those two, and the third one being radio frequencies, really leaving it on the milligauss setting, which is magnetism. Now, electricity and magnetism are super closely related, but in that case, you're measuring it more as its magnetic form. And I think they're like 175 or something. There's this guy.
Oh, yeah.
And
big boy.
This will do all 3 at once. So you don't have to worry about if your switch is set to milligauss. You can see this one spike in the RF or the EF, which is electric fields versus
what are those called?
Fields. So tri-field meter is the brand name for the most common one. I tend to this one is like technically those 3, but EMF is that's the buzzword. So basically if you're looking for something for EMF, looking at EMF meter, I think would be the main thing you'd look for searching for things in this whole family.
Yeah. So a tri-field meter is what is that the brand name or is what they're called?
Tri-field is a brand name for one. that's like the OG next to the K2.
I feel like
So
everybody's
the
got a K2 just for the heck of it.
yeah, so when you see the one with the needle, that's the
Mhm.
actual Tri-Field brand one. There's a digital needle one now too.
Mhm.
And its biggest advantage is that it moves quickly, so it gets the spikes, and either the analog needle gives you time to see a spike, or on the digital one, there's a little upper part that not a lot of people notice that stays at the highest level. Whereas one like this, there's a little part at the top that says peak, and
Mhm.
that'll tell you
I
what
see.
the last spike peaked at. And also, you can't see it now because there's nothing going on around here, but this part is a graph. If I put it next to something emitting like this clock or something, we might get a little spike on the graph. But that's my favorite thing about this one, is it measuring all three at once and giving a way to look back and see a spike that might have happened. Because that's the biggest bummer with a cheaper one, is
Mhm.
missing out
Yeah.
on
The little
something.
the little lights. Like you don't know what it
Yeah.
is. Could be the bathroom mirror.
Unless you have a GoPro strapped to it, you
Mhm.
might not.
My
Here,
probably the most paranormal thing that ever happened to me. Oh, there's a little graph.
yeah, tell me.
Involved just a light bulb K2. We put it on a chair in an old operating room, and it lit up to the first two. Toot, toot. And then I picked the chair up, moved it around the room, and it stayed. It's like the ghost was at a bar mitzvah, and I was walking it around
Just
for our
hung
Jewish
out with it.
wedding. Yeah, and I set it back down, and you could pick the thing up and move it directly up, and it would stay that way. Move it up, and it'd go away back in the chair. It was like it was sitting there. I was like, and then we're sitting there for about 5 minutes talking to it, and like, hey, can you make it intense? Can you see, talk to, hey, can you make the light go? And it went to the middle, moved another light up. And then this other group came in. Hey, you guys getting anything? And as soon as like, yeah, we're getting something. All of a sudden, poop, and we couldn't find another reading in the entire room.
Yeah, and then it's just gone. You're
It
like,
ran away.
okay,
Like y'all scared it off. Way to go!
it seemed like there was a thing. If now there's
You
no thing.
Scooby douchebags, you screwed it up. But it was kind of cool. But it was kind of proof that like maybe something was intelligent by the fact that it ran off whenever 5 or 6 more people showed up.
The responding to questions too. I love
Yeah.
that you brought that up, because that's my another one of my favorite elements to this, to make it more scientific,
Mhm.
while also being as fun as it is that
I wasn't scared at all. Is the thing.
getting questions responded to on something is just the best.
Hey, I was
I
trying to
also
find a
love
picture of it.
when there's a medium involved. Big shout out to J9 that couldn't be here
Yeah.
because she's under the weather. But my partner in all this, and my wife, is an excellent medium, and was, there's a stigma to it and a reluctance to come out, so to speak, as one. But since we've gotten together and done these investigations together, it's been incredible how much it's proven to me, seeing her come up with such details to things that I could actually verify, even just going around the graveyard. Oh, tell us more about what you're showing us here.
Oh, I was. That's the
on the
chair. You
chair.
see how it's on there?
Yeah.
See how it's sitting there with 2 lights? I could pick it up and move it around the entire room, and that was never changed.
That's wild.
And well, now we're looking at all my family photos. Okay, that's us at Disney World. But this is the chair, and see him lifting it up there. That's my buddy William who was with me, and it went away. You can move it over to that table. That's an old operating room, South Pittsburgh Hospital. Put it back on the chair, it comes back. So it was like in that one, and I picked the chair up. I say it, but it was like I was at a Jewish wedding. I was moving it around by the legs. I mean, I went like 10 feet away, and it never changed. I set it back down, and those people came in. Hey, you guys get anything? Yeah, we got some activity. Gone. Damn it.
Yeah. Isn't that weird how more people messes it up too? I've also had that experience.
We went back in that room probably 6 more times trying to get something, and nothing happened in that room. I mean, it was even warm. It was like muggy. It wasn't active at all. No heaviness or anything. There's
something else that Jack Osborne brought up that I liked too. That
I love him and his shows.
I know. I regret not mentioning them earlier. They're some of my favorite. If not, and him and Patty Negri, shout out.
Mhm.
She actually has one of these that she's testing for us right now.
Oh, cool. Heck yeah.
Yeah, she was super nice. I highly recommend anyone patronize any of her seances and get her book too. She's great. But Jack brought up that also Jack, like I know him.
The J man.
Yeah. But that different places, different machines seem to light up. It's almost as if some entities learn how to mess with one machine and then others learn how to mess with another and kind of prefer one or another in different places. And we'll do controls sometimes too. It's like you said, these things are cheap enough that you can leave an EMF meter over here or have something that measures temperature in one spot and not another, and actually see if something's going on in one spot and not just the house or by this electrical junction box or something like that.
And freaking cat balls, you can have 1,000 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just leave them out just in case. That's what I like about them. I was handing them out to little kids coming by my booth and like, hey, what is that? It's a cat ball. And they're like, oh, we saw those.
We
have
handed
one?
a
Like,
few
I
out
was
too. I love
I was
that.
hooking them up. I'm like, yeah, what? Dobby, they owe me a life debt now.
That's a
Just giving
great
Dobby
thing
his
to
stock.
spread.
Mhm.
It's they're cheap. They don't do anything on their own. It's a physical spring terminal in there that has to touch to make the thing activate. So like, and it won't light up if it's not legit jostled. So the fact that they do is incredible and something that I love bringing up for people to test. Big fan.
It's the same as those old light bulbs from the 90s that are the light fixtures that you could touch. And instead of having a switch, I think it's like the same technology.
Yeah, that's capacitance too. That's just like they're like a REM pod that are only on or off basically.
Like a touch.
But in the cat ball, it's actually a vibration. Like it's something getting shook in there.
Is that what it is? I wondered. I had them at my
spring.
desk at work. I'm just looking at them. I was like, what makes this thing work? We
There's
think
a
our
little
building's haunted, so I
spring.
brought some in.
It's a little box, and the spring swings over and bumps into one of the walls of the thing.
Chris said he found this cat ball guy. I've got like
Yeah.
20 in the garage, man. I think they've got my QR code attached to them, my promotional items.
That's such a good piece of merch. I love that. Or the
I
promotional
didn't even
item
sell
thing.
them. I was just giving them away.
That's what I mean.
People loved it.
So did you put like a sticker on it or something?
I got like it looked like I was the weed man. It looked like I was the weed man. And I got these bags from Hobby Lobby about the size of a Post-it note. And I put them in there and seal them up and stapled I'd printed out a bunch of QR code and stapled them to them.
That's even cooler because it
looked like the Mr. Nice Guy scene on Half Baked when they were giving out all the stuff at the bar.
I love that. That's actually what this is. And this is, these were vape cartridges at one point that the box came from. But I mean, this is like a $20, $30 REM pod then, minus the labor of assembling the thing.
Let me ask you this in the same vein as what you're saying is your artificial intelligence controlling the beam, controlling the frequency. What do you think? See, I'm of the camp that these cryptids, some of them are real, some of them are just superstition. But the reason we're getting these bad photos is because they can, shed their electromagnetism. I mean, they're doing something. Either they're not there or everybody's lying about it. I was thinking maybe take a video camera, like a cell phone or something, and put it inside of like a Faraday cage. And that way,
it's very valid because it's only optics going through. Then there'd be no RF.
Like, do they operate in that level of the fourth dimension that they can reach inside the Faraday cage, or are they sending actual beam as they're there? Have you ever seen the Lost Coast tapes of the Bigfoot show, Bigfoot movie? It's real good.
No,
it's like Blair Witch with Bigfoot, kind of exist as too. But every time the entity shows up, the camera goes, and you'll see just a hint of it running by, and it'll clear back up again. And I kind of think that they're onto something. That's how it works, because it seems like everybody who takes a picture or something like that is just nothing.
I mean, that was right there. Way. That would be a good way to rule out that theory or not, is go hunting with cameras and Faraday cages, and thick ones too.
It'd have to be a big one.
Good-
You look like
good
an idiot
thick
walking around
close
with the
mesh.
Epcot Center on your back.
I mean, you're going to need a light too, because the image
Yeah.
is going to be darker, having to focus through a mesh. The mesh will be out of focus, so you will get a picture. But that and well, you can't have too much light or you'll give yourself away. But yeah, you've got something there. And someone was messing with EMF readers and or REM pods in Faraday cages. I'm trying to remember which one this was. I think it was the person might come to me later, but it's a more recent show. And that's fascinating too, because you said, what if the entity just moves inside the Faraday cage? Then if that's the case, then you could pick up something with a REM pod or an EMF reader inside the Faraday cage, which shouldn't happen. Which shouldn't be possible, especially with, something really strong, sure, something like maybe focused on it that could just overwhelm the mesh, or something magnetic. So I shouldn't say EMF, because magnetism is going to go through the Faraday cage, although it's going to mess it up. Even copper will mess up magnetic fields. Copper is notorious for this, even though copper isn't ferrous. Fields still get affected by it. That's why that magnetic levitation hoverboard thing that was a trend for a minute would use spinning magnets over copper, and it would actually cause a magnetic field, like reflection in the copper, to make like a crappy hoverboard.
And they caught on fire. It all be smoking. Eventually they'll come up with some way to make a real hoverboard. I think they'll figure it out. And if the drones over the ocean or anything, or any indication, they probably already have.
If we could just synthesize some wacky matter that has like opposite mass, that'd be the ticket.
Without destroying the world,
without it killing us all,
without creating a micro black hole that sucks us all in and rips us to shreds.
Well, we blew up an island without making a black hole. Maybe we can just make just a little bit of anti-gravity matter, please.
Did we?
That didn't make up a black. Well, the nuclear bombs were supposed to make a black hole too. That was
you're thinking about like Bikini Atoll.
Yeah, Bikini Atoll didn't become a black hole, so there's hope.
That's what got Godzilla.
I have a lot of hope in stuff in the quantum world and stuff that we're discovering by learning how to tie like matter that we observe and mess with what happens when you go like inside of an atom and what makes up those with the quarks and muons and stuff like that. If that stuff follows rules that are like the rules we follow, and we have to follow rules that are like Lego blocks, well, you can like melt Legos and glue them together and do stuff that aren't part of the Lego rules when you see them smaller than that. Like, what happens when we get to that point when we see that there could be other versions of us on top of this, other universes, things that we're barely perceiving as maybe paranormal entities could just be on another dimension that's just like right here with ours. To them, it's like stepping a foot to their left and they're here versus not here. We only mess with these dimensions that in time, we're just falling constantly through time in one direction. But an electron is in this whole probability shell. It's never in one place until we look at it, until there's an observer, and by that get its version in our universe. But when it's doing its thing, it's in all these places. And that's another thing that might be behind the kind of premonitions that can happen with mediumship. What if the way spirits seem to sometimes give us information that we can't know, something in the near future, for example, maybe the near future and all its possibilities are just visible to it all at once. That might be how the obelisk works. Now, for people not familiar with the obelisk, that's Bill Chappell's device that picks words from a dictionary. And it's always driven.
I said orthodox. What an idiot.
The orthodox.
Okay. The obelisk.
So it will pick words from a dictionary, but you can't see on the screen the dictionary it's flipping through. And that's always made me kind of go, okay, how does the spirit pick a word then if it's not seeing the list it's picking from? But then we just what the heck, we'll test it. We got the Ovilus app. There's an Ovilus app too that uses the sensors in your phone to determine it. And it's been one of our most successful things to communicate through, where we've gotten told a word to go to a certain part in the room, told something that was in the room with us. We've had it respond to a question with an answer that made sense. We've even just been say a number and it said, I think it was 10 once, and it had never said a number before for us. We're just like a low bar, just say any number. So the amount of accuracy we've had of this.
Were you doing SDs during that time? Or?
That. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I have something to show you for Estes method.
Yeah, I love the Estes method. I think it's the most controlled one that we do so far.
Just to put a point on the thing with the last thing, the idea that a spirit can see multiple future possibilities and which one might be the most likely might mean that it might know what near future word is going to pop up on the Ovilus when it pushes on the sensors this much. It might just be pushing on them a different amount in all these different realities it sees, and then going, okay, that's the one where it's saying the word I want. That's the one I'm going to manifest in. And then we're just drawn as the observer to the one reality where the right word came out of the Ovilus. Because of the spirit living in all those realities all at once, just like an electron does.
It's kind of deep and it makes sense.
Right?
Like I'm going to go to the reality where it says this word.
Yeah. That's what I think is the only way that the Ovilus can work in my mind. And yet it works. So
what is happening?
If that's how electron probability works in particle physics, I think there's something there.
Oh my gosh. Mine is getting blown. We're covering bases here, people. You ever watch Bandersnatch on Netflix, the Choose Your Own Adventure movie?
Yeah, I saw it. I've been waiting to give it a shot. That's a good analogy, though.
There was a part in that movie where I thought that the fourth wall of the universe was getting broken in front of me. And
it's like a Choose Your Own Adventure thing, too, right?
Yeah, I got genuinely scared. I'm like, this isn't real. This is some kind of spiritual thing. I was scared for like 3 minutes. I was like, how did it know?
That's cool.
And yeah, when you were saying that thing about the realities, that's what it felt like playing that game.
Nice. Okay, we got to check it out now.
I can't imagine doing an edible or mushrooms and watching Bandersnatch. I would have to go outside. I watched it like in the afternoon, scared the shit out of me. But it wasn't scary. It's not a scary movie. But it got so real that you were choosing these things. I'm like, how did it know that?
So back to the Estes method, that's something we just started playing with. And we kind of weren't that impressed with spirit radios, not to be a hater, but just in our own messing around. We just kind of got that feeling like, okay, I just keep hearing bits of radio stations. And I know that can often be the medium by which something that profound is communicated. Not doubting that, or writing it off, but we just hadn't caught anything compelling messing with spirit radios. So I made my own spirit radio, but to test different ideas. So some people say, okay, use this spirit radio and just listen. You want to hear things in between the stations. So I made one that maps out where the stations are and then skips them.
Egon over here. What the hell is that?
Once it uses
Dr.
an Arduino,
Bankman.
And the top thing is just a recorder, and the bottom thing is like an EQ. It's actually a BBE sonic maximizer board, which is just like for a little bit of clarification. The camera picks it up terribly, but this is just a touch screen. And
those inputs on the bottom, audio inputs on the bottom.
Exactly. So you can record what it's picking up. So, part of what I think is valuable about the Estes method is this thing called pareidolia, where the brain will try to make sense out of random nonsense, which is often a discrediting concept. But I think for someone that's a medium, if their brain has some nonsense to put something together from, that could just be a substrate for them to hear something out of that's valuable. So that's why people don't often record the Estes method, because it might just be static in the recording, and it might be more about what that person interpreted the static as. and that being an answer to a question that they don't hear. Just for people that aren't aware, I didn't explain the Estes method at all. The one person is wearing headphones and listening to a radio either playing through a bunch of stations of static or a bunch of chunks of stations. And then someone else asks questions that they can't hear. And if they hear anything in the static, they say that. And often what they say is a response to the person's question, even though they can't hear that question. So we've started messing with it with just legitimately being the noise between stations, where it's isolated stations and avoided them and just played crap between there, which, there could be some faint junk in there too. But when it goes with a question validly, that's still why is that happening?
You want to know how I explain Estes method? And I always you remember how Bumblebee talked in the Transformers movie?
Yes.
He didn't have a voice box, so he's like 7, 8. But I didn't know really what to expect because those, like you said, the radio frequencies, it could be anything. It's like a station identification, WXTZ. But I was in the body box, Old South Pittsburgh Hospital. They didn't have a morgue, so they put the bodies in this room. It was like somebody's bathroom. It's like a Jack and Jill bathroom with the caskets. And my buddy Will was doing the Estes method. And we had kind of a relatively well-known paranormal investigator was leading charge. JB Coates. She's from Tennessee. She's kind of a big deal, She's the Zach Bacon of our time. But she's going to kill me if she hears me say that. But long story short, he's doing the Estes method. It says 14 people in the room. We counted. There's 14 people. I was tripping. I'm like, what? And then it said 5 people left. 5 people came in, and this other group walked in. 5 people. And this dude was inside of a room, blindfolded. Estes method, full blown, no kind of interference.
Blindfolded too. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Basically blindfolded and covered up. It's extra sensory something. I don't know. Isn't that what it's called? Estes.
Estes I thought it was named after another person.
Oh,
but
dude,
you know what? I'm probably wrong, and it's an acronym, and I just don't remember.
Well, we're going to find out right now.
That's good. Hey, that's good hosting.
Pull that up, Jamie.
Sam and Colby on YouTube actually interviewed the guy that invented the Estes method, and I remember his last name was not Estes, so I have that bit for you.
I love Sam and Colby. They were somebody told me they were fake, but I'm like, at some point when you get that big doing paranormal, you're going to do something that's questionable.
There's something that can happen in anything scientific where people that are too close to the experiment get excited, and there's confirmation bias, and there's things you want to happen. And, I think that's okay. And I think it's also okay to present it as entertainment and get that kind of hype behind it. Because if you look at the big scientific pushes, sometimes they needed the public to get excited and have fun with it and have people make entertainment out of the science, even if that sensationalizes it, even if that makes percentages of it untrue. Percentages of documented scientists are untrue as we keep disproving things and keep learning and stuff. So I give every paranormal investigator leeway that has the courage to make content and get people excited to exaggerate some things sometimes. The thing is, it piles up, and people can do their own research and their own confirmation. And we can also, as editors, kind of frame things fairly too.
Yeah.
And I think
the problem nowadays, everybody has access to all the tools.
Yeah. And it's only growing. I mean, there's myths like the incubus and the succubus and other myths that have gone away, but just the concept of the ghost and communicating with an unseen entity has continued, and it's continued into the era of recorded documentation and unlimited convincing cases. So,
dude, the ghost, I don't understand how anybody couldn't believe in ghosts right now. I don't get it. At all the things, aliens are out there, even if it's just like a microbe 10 billion light years away, foregone conclusion. And ghosts, they're out there. There's too much evidence. Bigfoot, I can go back and forth. I mean, it could just be a demon could just be pareidolia, but ghosts and aliens are real. Like there's
Yeah, there's a
anywhere around it.
mathematical thing with aliens too. Is just like
it can't not exist in some capacity.
the math also kind of explains why we wouldn't bump into like punk teenage aliens that
The
that would be all
neutrinos
obvious and stuff.
from
Something that could make it this far is capable of being discreet about it. I mean, if it can go this freaking far, by the time we can make it over there, we can be a bit sneakier too.
Oh yeah. I have an explanation on the Estes method, by the way. I have an update.
Oh, yes,
I
continue.
have a news update. The Estes method, a paranormal investigation technique, gained popularity in recent years. First developed by Carl Pfeiffer during his investigation in the Stanley Hotel, get this, in Estes Park, Colorado. That's where it came from, while he was investigating for The Shining.
The location being part of the name. Why didn't that occur to me?
Couldn't call it the Pfeiffer method? I guess Estes method sounds cool.
He's honoring his hometown.
Yeah, that's wild that this comes from the Stanley Hotel.
Yeah,
I was thinking of extrasensory telepathy.
That's the era to look at the Sam and Colby stuff for his interview was at the Stanley Hotel. Speaking of the Estes method, have you heard of the Gansfield effect?
I have. I don't know what it is. I have.
That's the one where you put a half a ping pong ball over your eye and shine red light so that you induce hallucinations visually because your eyes are bombarded with information in the form of the red light, but it's nonsense information. It's just it's like white noise for the eyes.
Yeah.
This is the most janky thing that I have, but I think this is a fun thing that other people can make. You can get these colored LED pucks to go underneath your countertops, stick them in hot glue them in reading glasses. And then the most important part, I know it looks terrible, but it was the part that took the most research, was the paper plate, because the dimmest setting on these was still too bright.
Yeah, I was going to say, it hurt your eyes.
It wasn't diffuse enough where the paper plate dimmed it and spread it out enough. So recent thing, I haven't done a whole lot.
Eclipse glasses almost.
Yeah, that's my Gansfield glasses recipe to share with everyone.
Dadgum. This is way more informative than I thought it was going to be, by the way.
Yay!
I expected like some, but dang, you're actually building stuff. That little recording box you had there is incredible.
Yeah, that's just, it's an Arduino. I have actual plans. If anyone wants to get crafty, there's code and plans. There's some, it's not the easiest like project, but it's not the hardest either. It's just there's a screen you can get on eBay. The Arduino, they plug together. There was like one wire I had to solder over, and then the rest kind of could plug together. The radio, there's a little radio board, and those are the three main parts. And then you give it power and you give it my code and it'll scan. I'm working on using it kind of to find the best setting for Estes method and kind of make that a default setting on the little orange thing. This is called the paranormal sensor station. And soon you'll be able to plug a radio module into this guy and be able to do what this thing does, and just have the right setting be just the default and scan just the blank spots between stations and help us study what goes on there together.
Man, have you used these things and gotten like actual full conversations, or is it just words? Just a little red hair woman.
Yeah, just little blips. There's moments in a couple investigations that have felt like a little bit of conversation, but
the guy I was talking to say the guy that I was in the Estes method with, I was the guy reading off, like he would talk and I would project. He was that far secluded, I projected into the room. And he said there's a few he didn't say because they were like talking to him, like they were saying his name.
Oh, heavy.
Which he got kind of freaked out. He was ready to be done.
Yikes. Yeah, we just barely started messing with it. We didn't want to do the Estes method with a regular spirit box. I'll just say it.
Yeah.
We wanted to use either that or something that was a white noise generator, just so we had that much more control over it.
Spirit boxes are loud too.
Yeah, and this you hear the but you don't hear like a strong chunk of a station spread in
Yeah.
there after it's eliminated it and starts skipping over it. But in
So
that,
when you're
you're supposed to hear the words. So
yeah, eventually I was like, man, I can't do this for like an hour. Like, you
No.
gotta turn that thing off. I don't care that much about it if it is on it.
it is
I'd rather
tiring.
be possessed than listen to that for an hour. Just go ahead and take me over or something.
Yeah, that's another negative point to the spirit box. Not to turn
Okay.
this into a spirit box hating session.
Yeah, well, I think anybody that's in the know, and I'm not in the know. I'm kind of I consider myself a field reporter to this
Mhm.
kind of thing. Like I just go with people that take me and I experience it and I can take back and I draw my own conclusions and then we come here and we talk about it. That's what I do. I'm podcaster first. But
Cool.
a lot of people say they don't
Journalism.
like the spirit. Yeah, a lot of people say they don't like the spirit box because of that and the loud and I can't sit here and listen to that.
Yeah, that's a what do you got? Polarizing one.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
But I mean, I've seen compelling stuff happen with the spirit box too. And I think it's just one of those things where I think it's more the person than the device, because there's something to be said with people who are just mediums and the device is just helping their mediumship. And I do the same thing and it doesn't get me the same thing. And I think that's valid too.
well, what's the most real experience you've had with your wife?
Oh
Being
my
a medium,
gosh.
with your experiences.
I'm happy you said that because there's one particular I was dying to tell you.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's an early one where we went to a graveyard together and she was this was early in us getting together actually, and I was bugging her about wearing her seatbelt. And even just around town, I'm just like I'm a car guy and I'm like a seatbelt evangelist. And then she was saying her grandma who had passed away always bugged her to wear a seatbelt too. And not that she wouldn't put it on the freeway or anything crazy like that, but it was just a little thing. So we went exploring this graveyard and she was being drawn in a certain direction. So she leads us there. And as she's going there, she says she's getting the taste. You know, some people pick up a taste, and started describing a car accident. Just like this person in this direction died in a car accident. It was in the southwest by Blue Diamond, and they were turning left and the other person was coming straight. And that's where they were hit. That's where it ended for them. And she leads me to this corner of the cemetery, and there's a statue of a heart with a seatbelt over it. And there's this like memorial to this young woman that died in a car accident that I Googled, and it was the vehicles made exactly the moves that she described. It was exact.
So she called it out.
Yeah, she called out the specifics of the accident.
What's the
And
taste?
this was not like a part of the cemetery we had walked past. She hadn't even been to the cemetery except one other time we went together, and it was on the other corner of it. So there was like no prior knowledge or anything. This was insane. And she believes it had something to do with her grandma leading her there too. Like maybe they introduced.
Wear your damn seatbelt. What's the taste that she describes?
It
I
is
immediately started.
probably something better to leave her to describe.
Okay. I mean, it's okay.
I know it best as the taste. So when she's like, "Oh my God, I'm getting the taste,"
I got the taste.
Like, okay, let's be reverent. See what happens here.
Her eyes roll back in her head. She's got the taste. It's like a coon hound on a track, like a bloodhound on a track. Rub the towel in her face. She got the taste. Go get it.
Go get it.
I was
Go find
thinking if you ever smelt like an airbag after it deployed, for some reason when you said the taste, that's what I thought.
I have certainly smelled that.
It's an awful smell. Like
she said it's
dust.
bitter like eating a penny, almost like blood.
Oh man,
which
why is it so relatable?
Yeah.
Oh man, it's like smelling toast.
Blood does taste like a penny, and
yeah,
that would be a last taste for a lot of people to have, hauntingly. You know, if your neck is cut off or your head's cut off at the neck by a guillotine, you stay awake for like 8 seconds.
Mm-hmm. That guy blinked his eyes.
Learning that in elementary school traumatized me for the rest of my life.
How about the fact the Challenger astronauts didn't die in an explosion? They died on the impact from the ground.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought they
Yeah.
burnt up. I might have been mixing that up with.
They survived the explosion. They came down and deployed their emergency oxygen, and when it impacted the Atlantic Ocean, that's when they died. Yeah. I love just
At least
ruining
the Titanic
parties.
submarine people got a surprise one.
Yeah, I love ruining parties with that one. Everybody having a good time? Is everybody having a good time tonight? How's it going? I'm waving my drink around, martini glass. So the astronauts on the Challenger didn't die on the explosion. Died on impact. What? Everybody's buzz just goes out the window.
Yeah,
I need to go call my mom. They just
that's
leave.
our kind of party. That's golf. That's cool.
I love it. Just ruining it. That's how do you know this shit? I just do, man. That's what I was gifted with.
I like when the Titanic submarine imploded. I had to know, like, what were their last minutes like?
I was very invested in that. I never watch news. I don't like news. I hate news. But I was invested in that because I was like, man, if they're under there terrified, it hurt me as a human.
Yes, exactly.
But when I found out, it was just like, they didn't even know
like,
it. Their brains couldn't register it so quick.
No, thank goodness.
Thank God. I was like going to bed at night. Like they're under the ocean right now, and I'm just going to bed. I'm watching Bob's Burgers on Hulu, and they're stuck on the ocean floor next to the lobster tank.
Yeah.
So tell me about the little bit fourth wall breaking we were talking before. Tell me about your Zach Bagans museum experience.
Oh, here we go.
And we can kind of land the plane after that, but you said Las Vegas, and so that's the first place I went.
Okay. Just because Janine just brought up another really short one before that. The one that was the one that she introduced me before any of them and kind of started me towards this path again. I had done a few paranormal investigations when I lived back in California, but kind of brought it back to me, was her outside the Goldfield Hotel and hearing a girl hum. And she actually got it on her camera, her phone camera, just filming into the Goldfield Hotel, which is another one Bagans has seen, to tie it back to that one, to him. And that you can check that out on our Instagram, just the Goldfield humming. But back to Bagans, who also saw that place, popularized it. Every time we've been to his haunted museum, something messed up has happened at our house coming back. The most recent one, we came back home, and within a couple minutes of stepping in, not as we were walking up to the house, mind you, not already going while we were gone. After entering our house, all the smoke detectors started going off. And I had to go through one by one, I had to remove every single one and then put just half of them back one by one to get it to stop. They'd stop for a second and then come back in and another one from another room upstairs and then travel through the whole house. It was wild.
Smoke detectors, huh?
Yeah. All this, whatever followed us home or whatever, ruined all the smoke detectors. You know, they have an expiration date too, and they're not expired yet. They're not like ancient ones or something.
And they don't go off on their own either. Just
why all of them? So
that's interesting. Does she have any idea of what entity might have done it?
No specifics on who. Usually, if she gets a specific name, or it'll usually be a person. So as far as entities beyond that, that's a bit nebulous territory for us. Another time the air conditioning broke. There was something always. Plumbing. There was a plumbing nightmare. Another time that she came back from the haunted museum and had to repair all the toilets. Drained batteries is another thing everyone sees.
Wait, were the smoke alarms going, or were they just chirping?
Oh no, it was the full. There was a fire.
Oh my God! I was gonna say, because I know when they lose their batteries, they'll do that. I know
she didn't want to give it attention because it was she was afraid because it was the third time it had happened in her house after the museum.
That was was it the third time the smoke alarms went off, or just the third incident?
Third time she had gone to the museum and something wild had happened at the house.
You got to go back.
Like, we need to go back and smudge before entering the house. That's another weird thing. It seems like smudging works. Every time we've investigated a place that they smudged, we don't get stuff. That's another weird thing. Oh yeah, the first, all the plumbing overflowed in the house, and the second,
God.
the air conditioner broke. So
It's
I
like
had
Slimer.
that, just the wrong order.
It's like Slimer from Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
I had an idea for a business venture that only applies to really crazy people, capitalists. What if you went into like the really bad parts of town and bought the houses that were foreclosed upon, borderline condemned, but can still walk in without getting killed. And you just opened like 7 Ouija boards and didn't close them, didn't say goodbye, and just invented a haunted house.
You do that in every other house, and just measure things with the houses you don't open 7 Ouija boards in as your control group, and just see if different stuff happens.
But I was just saying, like, not even like that, not like you're thinking science wise, but like you buy a house, you invest in a house, and you just go in there and just make it haunted. You just open these portals and just leave them open.
See how haunted you can make it, summon stuff.
That's what, like, and you pay $100,000 for this house, you invest $20,000, just like a shack, and you make it haunted, and that's just and you have like this tour of homes, like it's guaranteed haunted. And these kids come in like escape rooms and just stay there overnight, and they pay you $1,000 or whatnot. All of a sudden you're a billionaire from opening all these portals to hell. But it doesn't matter because it's not your house.
Yeah. It makes me wonder though if like whatever entities you summon might just get bitter at the commercialism about it and just like rebel against.
I guarantee it would have negative effects eventually. But the first few years you're rolling in it. There's no way it's not coming back and haunting you, no pun intended.
Yeah, it's not gonna come back and haunt.
But I was wondering like how somebody like you like could experiment at your house, like have like a haunted room.
Well, there's a reluctance to do that, to be honest, because
Yeah.
the more I don't know if it relates again to the quantum thing of the observer locking the thing in
Airbnbs.
place. You notice you paranormal investigate somewhere and like stuff keeps happening. So I worry we investigate the house too much and we invite too much stuff to be going on in the house then.
Oh yeah.
Don't want to poop or eat too much.
I took a flashlight that I bought from work on a paranormal research weekend, and I don't know where the damn thing is. I know I brought it back, and it's freaking me out. I'm like, what happened to that light? Where is it? I'm going to find it like an attic somewhere I've never been before.
It blinking on and off on its own.
Yeah, just. And I pride myself in not losing things. What's got me? So I either took it somewhere and got distracted, or it's got taken away to another dimension.
I'm like that too. That drives me nuts if I lose something like that.
Like I usually something happens. I'm like, oh, I forgot that. I gotta go back and get it, and I can find it. But I don't have a clue where that light is. And I've looked everywhere. It's bothering me, and I'm thinking like maybe the place I took it on has something to do with it.
Yeah, it might have wanted to keep it.
Yeah, why would you want a Walmart light? Kind of Victorian age. Oh, my daughter had to do the Living Wax Museum last week, famous Alabamians. And she had her big placard up. She was Helen Keller. She's dressed like in period garb. I said, you look like a damn ghost. She's already pale redheaded kid. And she looked like I said, you look like somebody you see in the dark in a mirror. When the lights went out. It even had the dress had the choker on it. Like they used to. Like, oh man. Remind me of a lack of a better example, like an old West prostitute would look. With the big fancy gaudy dress. That's what it reminded me of. But does anybody in the chat have any questions for Mr. Wise? I think we're about to wrap up because I'm just flabbergasted at the information here.
Yes, it's working.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely not the only time you're going to be on here, by the way.
Thanks. I really enjoyed it.
Piss you off because you're coming back.
Well, I'm happy too because Janine really wanted to join us too. So she was really bummed that she couldn't make it. She says hi.
You know what's wild is last week, the other person was going to come on had COVID too.
It's easy to go. She's an high school teacher by day, so it's a lot of exposure. So,
Oh yeah, I live with a high school teacher as well.
how funny!
And
We have so much in common. It's crazy.
I live with a high school teacher and a daycare student, so it's no wonder I'm not dead. I could be. Like I've got my immune system, like regular immune system, is just like you got nothing for me.
Yeah.
I got West African shit coming in this house on the daily.
I don't know. I might be kind of durable from
Oh yeah.
getting to work from home. I can snag a nap maybe.
Oh yeah. Well, we worked building our IT infrastructure. In COVID, I never got to telework. Everybody was tripping out at home wearing masks. What are you going to do? I'm like, I'm going to go to work. I have to work every day.
Well, there's no excuse for being tired on the job and being on call for them, because I could roll out of bed and get to work. So I better be there when they need me.
That's cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and we'll go ahead and wrap it up. TwoFaceParanormal.com is the website. It's in the description. Two Faces Paranormal, not Harvey Dent. Two Faces Paranormal. But yeah, I put your website in the description. So if you got anything else you want to plug, you got your Instagram.
Yeah, honestly, the website's perfect because you can get to all of it from there. And our biggest push right now is to try to get YouTube subscribers. So please, if you could help us with a little sub to our YouTube channel, we promise we've got more content down the pipes to show you excitingly.
Yeah, there's the YouTube right there.
It's
a wild picture, like
pointing
Harley
the wrong
Quinn.
way on the camera at it. That.
Yeah, lots of stuff on. I think the reason I was going to ask her about the Estes method too, because it was like the first one right there, because I watched it earlier.
That's something to look forward to for your guests when we come back, because you'll get to hear her sides of some of these stories and more about her experience with the Estes method too.
The Brittany Murphy one. Have you ever met Josh? Oh my God, Hope Paranormal.
No.
He makes those kind of boxes too, but I don't know if he may just be a little bit more sensationalized. He was a great conversation. I'll say this: when he and I were talking, the orb flew through the screen, and there was nothing in either of us' room. So I don't know. He may be legit because there's no when there's a bug in here. I'm doing this like a cat.
Yeah,
but I was trying to snap at it, but. It was like a straight up orb. I put it on there and got like 1,000 views off of it. But your Brittany Murphy video reminded me a lot of that, minus the like, wait a minute, it's awful convenient. Anywho, but yeah, thanks for coming on, and we'll have you back on later. This will be available. I don't know why anyone cared. This will be available via audio on Wednesday morning at midnight.
Alrighty,
that's it. I didn't do one this week because everybody canceled. I guess I was supposed to have a week off, but I didn't do one last week, all week, because everybody canceled. And so this morning I woke up in a cold sweat because you usually release on Sundays and Wednesdays. So I'm like, I didn't release an episode. Well, I don't have an episode. Okay. All right, folks. Thanks for watching, and I hope everybody has a good week.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for having me.
We're going to hit our theme music, and thanks again, Waz. It's been an excellent time, and you will be back very soon. Peace.
I never didn't believe in Bigfoot. I never believed in it. I didn't believe in it. I never given it any thought.
They kept wood knocking back and forth to each other, and it was in a pattern.
Barn owls don't typically throw rocks.
I come across these tracks.
Sasquatch is still not on my mind.